Well, here we are, folks. The 2020 election is drawing near, and so is the possibility of socialism. Can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. That's right. The good old Robin Hood philosophy of take from the rich and give to the poor could be a reality if we aren't careful. Well, for the younger generation and the Bernie bros alike, socialism is masked as the end-all, be-all of human suffering, curing poverty, boosting equality, and providing everything you need to live a happy and abundant life. Well, is it really? Columnist Marian Tupy recently wrote, "I have long held that the greatest harm that socialism causes was not economic, it was spiritual." Folks, let that sink in. For many reasons, this is incredibly true. Yes, socialism tanks any economy it ever touches. That's a given. But it crushes the spirit of the people living under its rule. Forget pulling yourself up by your bootstraps under socialism. The government will have taken your boots long before that. Listen, don't think for 1 second that if someone like Bernie Sanders secures a seat in the Oval Office, that we just have to ride out the next 4 years and everything's going to be okay. You don't bounce back from socialism. The true effects are not seen on the surface, but instead rest in the hearts and minds of the individuals. With socialism, there is no risk, no reward, no entrepreneurial opportunity, or room for both nationwide and individual growth. Socialism is not the answer to our problems. Socialism will have all of us treading water in order to stay afloat. Now, if our country falls into the grips of the extremely flawed system of socialism, there is no getting it back. Do you hear me? There's no getting it back. The nation that will rise from the extinction of socialism in America will in no way be recognizable to the nation you know now or remember. That is what is at stake, and that's what we have to lose. We're going to talk about that today, and I want to know, is that really okay with you? Hey, thin is in, they say, but what's good about a thin steak or a thin wallet or thinning hair? The answer to these rhetorical questions is nothing. So why then is every brand of men's body wash so weak and watered down? Any argument for using this crap is, well, pretty thin. Hey, enter thick. A new product from Duke Cannon Supply Company. Thick earns its name by being 3 times thicker than common body washes. It's the high viscosity alternative to watching your money run down the shower drain. Thick comes in a big-ass container that you crack open like a beer, and it comes in 4 distinctly masculine scents that won't leave you smelling like a teenage boy. Thick is made with plant-based thickeners for superior lather, so you're not going to need that gross loofah anymore. As an added bonus, when you heft a 17.5-ounce bottle of Thick, you're getting in a light arm workout. So how about that? Visit DukeCannon.com. Use the promo code WatchChad for 15% off your entire order. Free shipping with orders over $35. A range of Duke Cannon men's premium products are also available. Your local Target. Hey, Duke Cannon, we'll be right back. You know, I hesitate, Mark, to even say this is Party Time Mom, because let me tell you something. If Bernie Sanders gets elected, the party is over. This experiment that we know of as America is over. And the reason I want to talk about this on a Monday night is I'm still a little bit pissed off. Like, the more I have thought about Bernie praising Fidel Castro, I mean, continually looking for a silver lining with the Castro dictatorial regime in Cuba, and to say that after socialism has done so much damage and communism has done so much damage, that I promised you guys that I was going to break down this so-called democratic socialism that Bernie continues to push in the simplest terms I know how, and I'm going to show you why it's dangerous. Now, this is not going to be some exhaustive treatise on socialism and communism, and I'm sure all of you Bernie bros and all of you people that live in the basement and those of you who think that they are socioeconomic experts and geopolitical rivals to everything conservative are going to come at me and say, oh, you are so wrong, you're so confused, blah, 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 blah. Good for you. But we're going to talk about it nonetheless because it's my name that's on the show, Candice, Queen of the Ethiopians, and I can say whatever I want. So we're going to get into the topic of socialism, and I can't believe we have to. This is America, by God. This is the 50 United States of America, where you are promised life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You're not promised anything else. You're not promised health care. You're not promised education. You're not promised all of these different benefits that we've come to think are human rights. They're not human rights. Are they good? Yes. But are they a right? No. And don't come at me with this whole Jesus was a socialist stuff. That is not true, folks. It is not true. Jesus pushed compassion and generosity that was done from a giving and willing heart. He wasn't talking about all-out taxation on the part of the government that now owns all of your property. Jesus never said that. He said pay your taxes when he said, hey, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. But he didn't say let Caesar own everything you've got. That's not what he said. And also, I will remind you, if you want to stay biblical in that regard, and then we'll get off the topic there, but the Apostle Paul said, if a man shall not work, then also he shall not eat. Right there. There. There's no free stuff guaranteed to you. Sitting over here in the pub, the Texas legend Steve Helms and Party Foul Steve. We're going to weigh in on a heavy topic today, boys.
Yes.
So buckle down, because life as we know it, we make our living in the entertainment business. We are a commodity. We're a throwaway commodity. And I'm just saying our lives are totally over. Ruined.
Oh, yeah, completely.
If a Bernie Sanders gets elected under socialism. So we're going to get into that. Of course, my lovely friend, Hot News Natalie, sitting here in the hot seat. And I know you have strong feelings about this as well.
Very much so.
Very strong
feelings. Just last week was with Dr. Ben Carson, and got to hear him speak for a little while, and one of the topics he brought up was socialism. So it's been interesting because a lot of times we've been able to make light of it, that this wasn't very serious, but hearing him talk about it and feel like that was worthy of being in his speech, you are absolutely right. There's something that needs to be said about this. It's a very serious subject.
Well, we're going to talk about it. And the reason we're going to talk about it is because I cannot believe that Bernie Sanders is the front runner in the Democratic Party. He is the guy who's leading the pack. 52% of young Americans, millennials, say that they would like to live under some form of socialism or communism. 40% say that they want to live under capitalism. Those numbers are messed up. That's scary. So let me just say, folks, unless the tide is turned in a major way, America is destined within a few generations to be a country that institutes a socialist philosophy in its economy and ultimately its government. Now, let me separate socialism and communism for you, because I know you jacklegs want to come at me all the time and say, you're confusing the two. No, I'm not confusing the two. First of all, Vladimir Lenin said the goal of socialism is communism. Here's why I said that. Because socialism is the economic system of communism, okay? Socialism isn't a government. It's an economic system. Capitalism isn't a government. Capitalism is the economic system of a free market, right? So communism is what governs you. So if you want to really break that down, socialism requires the government to take control of the economy and eliminate private property. If it doesn't do that, it's not socialism. Okay, so when you start talking to all these folks out there, like, these candidates that have been running, and yeah, they're wild lefties and these crazy leftists and liberal ideas, and you're like, they're a socialist. Well, they're not, okay? They're not, because they're not advocating for taking your private property. Socialism does that. Takes control of the economy, eliminates private property, and once society gets reorganized along socialist lines, which means a classless society with no government, is what's going to develop. That is what's called communism. So remember how when you were a kid, they said, man, you can be anything you want to be when you grow up.
Yes.
Remember those days?
Oh, sure.
What'd you want to be when you were going to grow up?
I wanted to be an astronaut, a cowboy, and a fireman.
In that order? Party Foul, do you have aspirations of being something when you grew up?
I still hadn't figured it out yet.
You still trying to do it? Yeah.
I go do something for a little while. I don't like it. I go to the next one.
For the longest time, my favorite song, it was so depressing, is Colin Hay from Men at Work. Colin Hay's song, Waiting for My Real Life to Begin. It's a great song, Waiting for My Real Life to Begin. I mean, I was 40 years old trying to figure it out.
Sure.
Did you have those kind of ideas?
Yes, I wanted to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader.
And you did it. And you did it.
Yeah, but
You
that's
should just quit.
short-lived.
You just-
Of
That's
course she achieved
short-lived.
her goals.
It did not last very long. No one wants me to put that uniform on anymore.
That's not true.
True.
That is unequivocally not true.
I would love to put that uniform on. Wait, did I just say
On
that?
her or on you?
On myself.
We're going to get party
If
foul
socialism
Steve.
takes over, nobody's putting that uniform on
Nobody's
anymore.
putting that uniform
Uh-uh.
on. No, listen, and that's the thing. If you want to take an economic system like socialism, you ultimately create a classless system. And that classless system means you're organized according to what you do. All right? Because again, commodities, you throw commodities aside in socialism. You don't just go out and buy a bigger TV. You don't go buy another car. You don't get an Apple Watch. You don't do these things because there's no value to any of them, because you don't have a market whereby you can create value. Therefore, manufacturers and producers don't know what price to put on objects, and therefore there's no demand. So what you wind up with is a lot of crap you don't need, and the stuff that you really need for survival is depleted. So I ask you the question, what's more valuable, your iPhone or a gallon of milk? Well, that's all relative, right? I mean, is a bottle of water or an iPhone more important? Well, you know, in a capitalist society where we have everything, that we just go right out here and go to the refrigerator and grab a bottle of water. But what happens when that's depleted? And I'm thirsting to death, I'm starving to death, and I can't go out there and get that. I don't give a crap about my iPhone anymore.
Right.
But that's what socialism ultimately creates. And I know what you folks are thinking. You're saying, oh, but no. What Bernie wants to do is deal with the uber rich, the 1%, because they're not paying their share. They need to be taxed. Well, even if you taxed every billionaire in the world 100% of their income, it's only going to last and pay for our nation's budget for about 3 months. So forget that. If you taxed them 100%, tax bracket over $500,000 a year puts you at about 37% in the United States. That's pretty significant. That's a significant chunk. But these people out here, and I want to break this down because first of all, these folks out here who are promoting socialism, they think people are good. People aren't good. I mean, look over here at the pub. Look at these two heathens and reprobates.
When Bernie Sanders, if he were to get elected, I'm filing bankruptcy. I'm not paying student loans. I'm not going to do nothing.
I'm going back to school, man.
Yeah.
I'm going back to school. I mean, why not? I mean, I loved it when that dad walked up to Elizabeth Warren and said, okay, I sacrificed and paid to get my daughter through school. You going to pay me back?
Yep.
Oh, she said, of course not. Of course not. So, you know, there are a bunch of people out there in America who would love to see their student debt just forfeited.
What about all the ones that flunked out?
Yeah.
Do they get theirs paid?
Get a
They flunk
refund?
out, and do they have to give it back? How does this all work?
Exactly. It really does. We are being facetious, but it gets into a rabbit trail that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, you can take that thing down the logical lines and it becomes fallacy real quick. First of all, this idea that people are good. People aren't good. People aren't good. All you got to do is look at history. It's all about man's inhumanity to man. Once the haves get in control of the have-nots, they eliminate the have-nots. And then the haves start turning on each other because what if that have wants to come get my have? It's like George Carlin said. You know, I go to somebody's house, I got to move all their shit out of the way in order to put my stuff on the bedside table. You know, and so why is it that other people's stuff is shit and my shit is stuff, right? So we want our stuff, and we want somebody to give it to us. And I'm going to break that down for you and show you how deadly of a spiral that becomes in just a minute. Now, look, it's shocking that your home can be stolen this easily, but that's the brutal lesson that Deborah learned. Poor Deborah, when thieves found her home's title online, forged it, and literally took ownership of her home. In an instant, thieves legally owned Deborah's home. She got evicted. Spent a fortune in legal fees trying to get it back. The FBI calls home title fraud one of the fastest growing crimes. And listen, you do not want to be next. That's why I urge you to protect the online title to your home with Home Title Lock. The legal documents to our homes are kept online where thieves hunt them. They forge the documents stating you sold your home, then they borrow against your home and stick you with the payments. No insurance and no bank is going to protect you. Well, the beauty of it is Home Title Lock does. You could already be a victim and not even know it. You might already be a victim of title fraud. Can you believe that? So I'm going to help you find out. Register your home at HometitleLock.com and enter Chad for 1 month of free protection. Again, enter Chad, that's C-H-A-D, folks, for 1 month free at HometitleLock.com. HometitleLock.com. Hang tight. I'm going to blow your mind. Hey, I want to say real quick before we get into the meat of the matter, happy Texas Independence Day. State of Texas. God bless Texas. God bless Texas with his own hand.
Brought down
Nowhere
angels.
but Texas, where I'll be. You can get that Steve Helms song right there. It holds the answers for all I need.
Now, is that
Honor the
song
Texas
other
flag. I
Only
pledge
6
allegiance
cents
to
for
thee.
Can
Yeah.
you only get that song in Texas, or
No, you can get it anywhere.
Anywhere.
Oh, okay.
Anywhere songs are offered.
Everywhere else, people don't usually play it.
And for those of you not in Texas, and for those of you in Texas, you can get our brand new single, myself, Ryan Weaver, with, of course, these kids over here on it as well. Party Foul Steve singing deep in the backups.
way deep layer?
And Steve Helms
tracks.
on
Just
the
enough to say 'em on
guitar.
there.
But our new He's Still Your President. I love that song. It's an earworm. You can get it where songs are offered. Socialism is responsible for the deaths of over 100 million people in 1 century alone. That right there tells you people, by and large, aren't good. Now, it's under the guise of we're going to institute an economic system that everybody gets something. Everybody gets taken care of. The folks that are poor aren't going to have to worry about being poor anymore. The folks that are rich, well, they're going to get to keep their money. But now everybody gets taken care of. And that's exactly what Fidel Castro was promising people when he was brought into power after the Cuban Revolution. So if you talk to people who lived in those days, right, the 50s and 60s in Cuba, their understanding was they were going to have everything they needed. But it wasn't long when all political dissidents were being murdered, being assassinated, and being killed. People started, let me ask you guys a question. How many times have you ever seen a raft loaded with people going to Cuba? Never.
Sometimes
sure.
the tide gets you, dude, and it's hard to stop.
I mean, it's 90 miles from Key West to Cuba. You never seen Bernie Sanders on a raft saying, I got to get to Cuba. I got to get to Cuba. It's over there. I want to go get some literacy. You know, I mean, that's what he said in his little interview. He said, well, not everything about it was bad. Literacy rates went up.
Because they killed off all the dumbasses.
He killed all the dummies, and he wanted to teach all the kids how to read communist doctrine. Soldiers would go into these students, and they would say, close your eyes and pray to Jesus for a piece of candy. Now open your eyes, and there'd be no piece of candy. And they'd say, now close your eyes and pray to Fidel Castro for a piece of candy. They'd close their eyes, and the soldiers would put candy on their desk. Open their eyes. Look at this. That's indoctrination. Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, his grandmother was a school teacher in Cuba. And when this started happening, they forced her to teach the fundamentals of communism. And it was so bad. It was an indoctrination camp. She had to teach communism, whether you wanted to or not. Now, the thing about it was you couldn't quit. You couldn't just quit your job. You weren't allowed to. So you know what she did? She started foaming at the mouth and acting like she was crazy, like she was a maniac. She had rather live under the stigma of mental illness than teach communism and what they were forcing her to teach.
Good for her.
Yeah, exactly.
I've said all along, what people come up with doesn't amaze me.
Yeah.
What people believe amazes me.
Yeah.
Your Koreshes, your Charlie Manson, all these wackos, the crap that they come up with, that doesn't amaze me. The fact that people will believe this crap, man.
Yeah. And what I said in the intro is true. It is a system that is void of spirituality. It steals your spirit. It steals your soul because it makes you hopeless. It not only makes you helpless, it makes you hopeless. you don't have anything to look forward to anymore. It's gone. You know, whenever in the 60s, whenever the people in Germany woke up one morning and suddenly there was a wall dividing Berlin, and you had East Germany and West Germany. It's interesting to note historically that the rifles only pointed one direction. They only pointed one direction. There was nobody in West Berlin trying to get into East Berlin. It was the other way around. Why? Because suddenly they were under a system of economy called socialism and a dictatorship of communism. So that's what they had. That's what they had. And so this idea that, well, it's never been tried before, and we're going to do it right this time. We just put the word democratic in front of the word socialism, and it's going to be okay. Because we're more enlightened, right? I mean, we've got, now just mind you, folks, we've got way more education and intuition and intelligence than they did back in the 20s and the 30s and the 50s and the 60s. I mean, we've got access to all the information in the world. We've got the internet. We're enlightened people. Now, go online. I want all of you to go online, go on social media, and I want you to watch how people interact with each other on the information superhighway. We're at each other's freaking throats.
We're dumbed down.
Well, we think we're smart. That's the thing. What does the Bible say? Knowledge puffs up. It makes you prideful. And because we now have the internet, I don't have to go to the encyclopedia and dig out the book and thumb through a page anymore. I just Google search it, and now suddenly I'm an expert on whatever topic. I can throw around numbers and percentages and all these things. I'm talking to you on the simple level of the human level. We're at each other's throats. The internet has us around the neck, and we're going for everybody else's jugular. Arguing politics, arguing. I mean, F you, you smarmy, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the go to hell's, kiss my eyes, and up yours. All of those things are happening at all times on social media. You know it's true. I can ruin somebody's day, man. Somebody calls me out on something. Just yesterday, I had a lady who said, you just think you're a big shot. No one cares what you say. Because I made the comment about Bernie Sanders the other afternoon. He got on the wrong private jet. This senile old goat. I mean, he's taking that whole what's yours is mine thing to a whole new level. So I made a joke about that, and this lady said, Jill, why don't you find something else to whine about? Who cares about what you got to say? No one. And I said, well, the numbers say different.
Right.
Well, then there was 347 comments underneath there of people just crucifying this lady. And she says, well, I can see all your groupies just decided to chew me up and spit me out. You just got the crowd against me. And I was like, wait, I thought you said no one cares.
Yeah.
And she's still there.
She's still there.
If she didn't care what you said, then why the hell does she know what you said?
Why are you there? Why are you commenting?
Exactly.
So, like I said, I can ruin your day. All I got to do is comment back to you. Mm-hmm. And when I've started saying, you know, the whole okay boomer thing, everybody's like, that's the insult. Okay, boomer. I remind everybody, I'm Generation X. I don't like the millennials or the boomers. So I don't like either one of y'all. If you want to, let's get down to it. You all screwed us up. And we're at fault too. But my God, this instant society where we need it right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm guilty. You're guilty. Consumerism. You know, sometimes you ever just think, man, I'm just going to go out and do some shopping. Make myself feel better. I'm going to go buy me something.
Shopping now is, okay, it's done.
I'm going to get on Amazon.
Yeah.
And you see that box show up on your front porch, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Santa Claus came.
I don't even remember what I ordered. I'm excited. It's like giving yourself a gift.
Well, if you run out of water, you can order some water with your iPhone on Amazon.
You get it all.
Instant gratification.
Boom. It's right there. You can get DoorDash, Uber Eats. You go through the drive-thru. We've cornered the market on fast food.
We're lazy.
I mean, you got, what's the old joke about, a comedian was talking about newer and faster minute rice. You can get it in 30 seconds. It's like, who the hell can't wait 60 seconds on their rice?
Well, I'm hungry.
Got to get it in 30, got to get it in half a minute. So it's 30-second rice. It ain't minute rice anymore.
I mean, now Monostat 7's got 3 days. Monostat 3. Come on.
Chad, you said
knock
that,
it down.
You said people were coming to you or kind of rebutting with from a biblical sense, but I know that even with the Bible, the Lord calls us to give our first 10%. Now, it was the first 10% of your earnings. We've gone way beyond that, even in the society that we're in. And if you go socialism, it goes even further. So if you believe in socialism, you can't refer to the Bible.
No, you can't.
Because you're going the opposite way.
And not only that, the Apostle Paul says the Lord loves a cheerful giver. And so that word cheerful in the Greek is a hilarious, a celebrative giver. In other words, if I can't do it with a cheerful heart, then I shouldn't do it at all, right? I don't pay my taxes with a cheerful heart. I don't do that. So now let me just point out something, and this is something that I cannot believe has not been pushed more on this debate stage amongst these Democrats. Bernie Sanders advocates for something that I don't know you folks realize. Now, remember what I said, the definition of socialism is when the government controls all property and all possessions and you don't have access to it. All right. Bernie Sanders has advocated and pushed for legislation that is going to force all companies that are publicly traded to give 20% of their stock to their employees. Now, why should I have to do that? If I own a big company...
Because I'm a loyal employee. I want 20%.
But you're not obligated to 20% of my...
You're getting about 30 already.
Of ownership to my company. That you're getting into the slippery slope of socialism right there. Now, Bernie can't come out and campaign on the guise and platform of saying, we're going to take all your stuff. Can't say that. Can't say that to Americans. I mean, we're still not at that point. By and large, that sounds foreign to us because it is. But that's ultimately what happens. And so there are those who want to say, well, these Scandinavian countries like Denmark and Finland and Sweden and all of these things, we're going to get back on that because I want to spend a minute really talking about that. And I'm going to break down some of the horrors and some of what I call the legacy of socialism, because I'm telling you, if we don't deal with this thing right now, and as Barney Fife would say, got to nip it in the bud. You got to nip it. It needs bud nipping. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And people are like, oh, my God, are you telling me I shouldn't have health care? I'm telling you it's not a right. Should you? Yeah. And guess what? You know what the beauty of America is? You're not denied it.
That's right.
If you get hurt and you go to the hospital, you get it. They're not turning you away. No, if you get cancer, something needs to be done with health care. There needs to be health care reform. What that is, I'm not the expert on that. There needs to be some things that are done. But to say health care is a right, it's not a basic human right. We're going to get back to that here in a minute. But hang tight, because I'm going to show you something, and you're going to not love it. We'll be right back. Hey, where'd socialism come from? Where'd socialism come from? Most people out there today can't define socialism. They don't know what it is. They can't define communism. Again, they say, well, you're using them interchangeably because, again, the goal of socialism is communism. Socialism is an economic system. Communism is the government that it leads to because people are evil, all right? That's my summary. Socialism collapses the economy. Once it collapses the economy, you're left with just a very few or even one that's in charge. Mao Zedong. Your Kim Jongs, your Stalins, your Lenins, these guys, your Che Guevara's, your Fidel Castro's, your Maduro's in Venezuela, all of these people, you're left with these dictators who are not benevolent because, again, people are bad. So that's why I always say, if you want socialism and it collapses, and it will because it always does, and I'm going to tell you why in a second, it always collapses, you better hope that there's a benevolent dictator that's sitting over top of you doling everything out. But there's yet to have been one in all of human history. And you think that it's changed? Remember, again, go to the internet and look how you cuss each other out. I mean, just keyboard warriors. I saw two big fights happen in Washington, D.C. this week out at hanging out, networking everybody out at Harry's bar by the Trump, and these kids get into a fight because suddenly they realize that Twitter ain't the real world. You can't say some of the crap you say online.
Like a fight?
Fights.
Oh, man.
Like stuff getting broken, including noses and black eyes.
Oh, wow.
You can't say things in public to someone's face that you say on Twitter without getting your jaw jacked.
Right.
And these kids, they don't realize that Twitter ain't real life.
Right.
And there were multiple fights, police, the whole thing. It was every night, wasn't it, Steve?
It was.
It was a melee.
You kept me out of all of them.
What?
You kept me out of all those
I
fights.
know. Steve wants to go in there and settle it, right? I'm going to fix everybody. Like, no, get your ass right back over here. We're not going to do that. Francois Noel Babeuf. He was French, obviously. No, Francois Noel Babeuf. Like you say, Henri. Like, are you French? No, then it's
Henry.
So Francis Noel Babeuf is credited being the first advocate for socialism. He wanted to turn the French Revolution into a socialist revolution, but guess what happened to him? He didn't really get to do that because the French Revolution, most everybody with a big mouth or money got the guillotine. So they got their heads lopped off and into a basket. He was one of them. But Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels both cite him in multiple times, actually, in the Communist Manifesto. So he said, Babeuf, that is, he said money under socialism would be abolished. The circulation of gold or silver forbidden. Thus provisioned, no member of the community may possess anything other than what the law makes available through the agency of the governors. Now, there is nothing that the government runs that you enjoy. Go to the DMV, go to the tag office, go to vote, go to the post office. Would you rather use FedEx or the post office? You'd rather use FedEx because it's a private company and they have to have excellence. Post office, they don't care. No offense to those of you that work at the post office, but I'm just telling you, it's a government-run organization. Would you rather live off of the economy or the money that you make through a free economy, or would you rather live off of Social Security or Medicare? So why do we want the government handling our currency in order to dole out what they think we deserve, or our health care, or our education? Do you want your health care to look like the United States Post Office?
The reason why they want it is because it's the kids that have never had it, and they want it for free.
Yeah.
They want what you have.
Yeah.
I don't want to work for it. I want your crap.
And I will put the blame on Generation X. We were latchkey kids who we wanted to graduate college and immediately be making what our parents worked 30 years to make, okay? And we were bitter that we weren't. And so then we started having this millennials and Gen Z kids. They were our babies, and they never heard the word no. They never heard the word no because we didn't want them to experience the disappointment that we experienced as latchkey kids when we had both parents out there working hard to give us what we had.
But the difference is, though, you wanted more money. I get it, but at least you were working.
Yeah, that's right.
These kids today, they don't want to work. They just want the shit for free, man.
They don't want to work. You're exactly right.
You've worked your ass off for 30 years and you've got millions, or billions, as Bernie says, because they worked. Yeah. And whether they didn't work and they got it, who cares? It's theirs.
Right. Gen X
it's
had
not
a drive.
Yours.
There was a drive. We all wanted to succeed.
Look how many kids these days. When I turned 15, I went and got a learner's permit day of.
Yes.
Well, I was already driving 13, 14 years old.
Me too.
Listen, when I turned 16, day of, I went and got a driver's license. Day of. These days, kids are waiting until they're 18, 19. They just don't have any desire.
They don't have anywhere to go. They don't have a job.
Yeah, where am I going to go? What am I going to do?
We'll sit home and play games.
Yeah. So, and I mean, look, I got 5 kids. I see that mindset even in them. They're like, my 2 oldest kids waited till they were 18 to drive. I had honestly no problem with it because I wanted them to be safe and responsible and be secure. But that's the kind of thing. There is no drive in that. So let's just give it to me. Well, it costs somebody something. There's no such thing as government funded. We've said that on this show over and over. There's no such thing as government funded. You're going to take my money. Now, I paid to go to college. I paid a lot of money to go to college. And man, I went to a lot of college. And I paid for it. I got out of college, paid it off. I was done with it, okay? You want me now to take a portion of what I have worked hard for to come out there and give it to you so you can have it, quote, for free. No, I am not going to fund your education because then your college education becomes nothing more than high school 2.0. That's all it is. I mean, most kids today going to college in a liberal arts school or whatever, doing their 4-year degree, getting their bachelor's degree, all they're doing is learning the crap they should have learned in high school. It's true. It's true. Elementary school kids at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, elementary school kids were taking standardized tests, or not standardized, but they were taking tests in the United States that master's degree educators can't pass to this day. Elementary school kids were doing it. That's how hard it was. But we're not educating them. We're teaching them rote knowledge. We're not. But I don't want to get into the education thing. Here's the problem. You want to talk about things like Scandinavia. Well, look at Scandinavia. Look at all those guys. Sweden, they got a better class of living than we do. They live better than we do. Do they? Okay, well, there's only 5 million people in their nation. We have 335 million. Yeah, I can spread around a little bit more for 5 million, but let me just tell you, these Scandinavian countries, they don't appreciate you calling them socialist. They have expanded welfare programs. They have social programs, but they're not socialist. Listen, these guys, oh boy, you have to understand they're using capitalism to fund what they have created. Do you guys understand that? Socialism, remember, it is the government that owns the means of production. Scandinavian countries finance their welfare programs with a capitalist economy. They're capitalists. Bernie Sanders, at the end of the day, is a capitalist. They said, well, how'd you get to be a millionaire? And Bernie said, oh, I wrote a book. People went out and bought my book. That's capitalism. Mm-hmm. So what's good for me isn't good for thee. I'm going to put you under a deal whereby you fund my thing. And all you got to do is go back and look at the tweets that Bernie put out there complaining about millionaires. And then he turns around and he's like, now he's talking about billionaires. Nobody should be a billionaire. But that's because now he's a millionaire. He's getting on the wrong private jet. Listen, folks, I want to say this to you quick, and I want you to pay attention. This is why socialism doesn't work. It destroys every economy it touches. When the economy is destroyed, somebody's going to be in charge, and they will not be benevolent because, listen, don't forget, Fidel Castro, Maduro, all these guys, they lived like billionaires while their people starved to death. When a market is left alone and allowed to operate, consumer demand is taken into account and organically signals to private producers what consumers desire. They know what you want, so they make more of it. So without a profit motive, there's no reason to make it. Economies collapse. A producer will produce as long as there's a demand for their products, right? They don't make Tickle Me Elmos anymore. But man, they were once upon a time, weren't they? You couldn't get your hand on one. There was demand for Tickle Me Elmos. Remember that craze?
Yep.
I don't remember it being that creepy, but yeah.
It was.
It was that creepy.
I didn't buy a single one of them.
You kind of look like a little red Bernie Sanders.
You tickled some Elmos. Shut up.
Yeah, every day you got to tickle that Elmo. Hey, a producer's going to produce as long as there's a demand. Under a centrally planned economy, the government dictates what gets produced and how much it costs. Now, let that sink in. So, in a market economy, the value of a product, that's the sale price, signals to producers how much to produce. In socialist countries, there is no way to gauge the value of a product. So that causes shortages for goods that consumers desire and a surplus of goods they don't want. That's what we alluded to earlier. The price of a good has a mystical effect on the world. Let that sink in. The price of a good has a mystical effect on the world. Without it, our standard of living would be far lower than it is now. So you wouldn't be able to listen to this podcast on your device. Your device wouldn't exist because you wouldn't know any value to it. You wouldn't know what it's all about. You wouldn't know what's going on. And so what happens ultimately is everyone now is standing in the proverbial breadline because we produced all the wrong things and not enough of the right things, and we put everybody in a system whereby they couldn't produce because they had no motivation, they had hopelessness, there was no spirituality, there was no life left into the system. What am I working for? Well, hell, I just won't work at all. I will live on the government dole. So should there be social programs? 100% yes in America. There should be social programs. There should be welfare system. There should be government funding towards things that we need, that we desire. Because, look, we are a great country. We are a wealthy country. We are a country with all kinds of means and resources. We should be able to put those resources towards certain things. But I don't need the government invading my life, dictating to me what I can own and what I can't own, what I can do and what I can't do. That's where you've got to be careful. You start instituting socialism, and it gets dangerous real quick. And that's what Bernie's saying. And you're like, no, he's not saying he wants to own, no. He wants to totally control your health care. Now, he's not going to operate under it. Just like nobody in Washington, D.C. operated under Obamacare, but they, by God, made you pay a fine if you didn't have health insurance. That's the ridiculous stuff. I hope you guys can see. I mean, we can sit here and beat this horse to death. I'm scared. I'm worried about it. I mean, I'm not like, frightened, trembling. God's still in control at the end of the day, and I believe his grace is on this country. But I'm telling you, you want to fight about Donald Trump, you haven't seen a fight yet. Hang tight. We'll be right back. All right, folks, I hope I've scared the mess out of you. I know we've just kind of gotten in, just scraped the surface of this thing, and I know people are going to come at me and they're going to say, you're still confused. And no. Socialism leads to communism.
I have a question.
Ask me a question.
I do want to ask you a question.
Pose it.
Bernie becomes president. Socialism becomes a reality. Do you think that this will be an uprising for a civil war? I don't mean to be dramatic, but I think there will be people who stand against this.
I've said over and over again that the Civil War, if it potentially could happen, would happen within the left. Like, I think the left is fighting really. The Democratic National Convention Committee is working really hard to make sure Bernie's not that guy. Mm-hmm. They recognize how dangerous he is. They recognize, even Mike Bloomberg the other day on the debate stage said, we're never going to have socialism. We've tried that and it's failed. Well, I mean, I got to agree with you, Mike. You're right. So is it? I hope we never get to that point. I just know that I'm not letting the government own my stuff. You're not going to. Give me liberty or give me death. In the words of Patrick Henry. I mean, that's where I live. I think that's where the viewers live. I think that's where the listeners, spend most of their time. That's their attitude. So 330 million, the most of everybody, even those who lean on the left, they're just not going to let the government come and take their stuff. You implement the idea of socialism on a massive scale, you're always going to get three things. You're going to get tyranny, you're going to get violence, you're going to get starvation. And let me tell you, when people are hungry, they'll do all kind of things to get fed.
Yeah. You don't want to see me hungry.
Right.
And that's the thing. We've never been hungry. We'd say, oh, no, we've never been hungry in this country.
True.
So, Steve brought up something during the break about if you want to, you can't, Party Foul brought up something, you can't expect to continually take out of a system you've never paid into. You never put anything into. And that's exactly right, because eventually, as Margaret Thatcher said, the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of other people's money. And you say, well, we're just going to keep producing it. You won't. So anyway, don't at me, bro. Don't at me. You go to watchchad.com. I am headed to Calgary, Red Deer, Alberta, actually this week. Got a fun little sold-out event up there with a major organization. Kind of like going to, the Texas Cattle Commission. Yeah, this is kind of like Alberta's deal. It's a big deal. And then Party Foul Steve and I, along with the Deplorable Choir, are going to be in Elk City, Oklahoma on the 13th. We've sold a lot of tickets, but I think there's some that still remain. Get your tickets for Pueblo, Colorado. Get your tickets for Grand Junction. And on down the line, we got a big announcement about a show coming up in Fort Worth, Texas in June. And man, I need y'all to show up for that thing.
I might make that one.
We'll be there.
My God, I need a lot of people to show up. Prophet has no honor in his hometown.
Straight out of socialist tickets.
Yeah, we're out of socialist tickets. Straight out of comp ticks. So, Candace, the queen of the Ethiopians, the puppet master Mark. I just had to get this off my chest today and just take the time to do it, because, man, it's scary. Go to watchchad.com. Don't forget to go where music is offered and get our brand new single, He's Still Your President. Learn it, sing along. We love y'all. God bless. Talk to you next time. Bye.